The first zombie horror flick of 2025 has officially dropped and it's brutal. Scientists have developed a viral agent that grants immortality but at a horrifying cost. The host loses all consciousness and becomes a mindless monster, driven only by hunger and carnage. One test subject manages to escape, climbing to the rooftop of a 100-meter tower. Curious onlookers gathered around, completely unaware that a full-scale zombie apocalypse was about to begin. The man spasms violently, twisting his body into an inhuman posture before standing upright. Before anyone can react, he sinks his teeth into a woman's neck, tearing it apart. The shock sends a wave of panic through the crowd. People scatter in every direction, but the virus spreads like wildfire. Within minutes, dozens are infected, biting everyone in sight. The entire street descends into chaos, a blood-soaked hellscape. Yamato, witnessing the horror, grabs his girlfriend Aoi and runs for their lives. On the way, Aoi sees a young girl who has fallen. Trained as a nurse, she can't just leave her behind, but her compassion costs them as zombie lunges toward them. To protect her, Yamato and the zombie fell off the overpass together. Luckily, the zombie cushioned the fall. Yamato escaped with only minor injuries. As he struggled to his feet, the crushed zombie also began to rise, only to be slammed away by a passing ambulance. But back on the bridge, Aoi is targeted again. With no choice, the two are forced to split up and escape on their own. In a single night, the virus spreads across Japan like wildfire. Within a week, the entire world has fallen. 5 years later, human civilization is in ruins. Only a handful of survivors cling to life and hiding. At the heart of the wreckage stand two towering buildings, symbolic beacons dubbed the last hope of mankind. The towers operate on a strict class system. Only those in power are allowed to live in the upper floors. Below, deep in the foundations, is a grim refuge for common survivors, humanity's last shelters. Miraculously, Yamato has survived all this time. For 5 long years, he's been searching for his girlfriend, but he's never found a single trace of her. Luckily, this time Yamato got a real lead from a black market info broker named Kai. According to him, the other tower was reserved for scientists and doctors who had been working day and night to develop a vaccine. If Yamato's girlfriend Aoi really was a nurse, chances were she'd been taken there. But for ordinary civilians, getting into the tower was basically impossible. The entrance was surrounded by barbed wire, and anyone who tried to force their way in was met with armed resistance. Yamato, who used to work high-rise maintenance before the outbreak, knew towers like this usually had hidden service access. He figured he'd sneak in and try his luck. But just as he was about to go in, Kai stopped him, claiming he knew a safer way inside. Turns out, that safe route was a trap. Kai led Yamato straight to a local gang leader named Wanatai, a ruthless thug who ran a crew that specialized in extorting desperate newcomers for their supplies. Just then, another survivor was dragged into the camp. Wanatai demanded Yamato hand over his gear. When Yamato refused, a fight broke out. Wanatai pulled a pistol, ready to put a bullet in Yamato's head. Just then, Hibiki Mamiya, one of the captured survivors, suddenly spoke up. He claimed the underground facility beneath the tower had never been properly sealed, meaning there had to be an unfinished pipeline they could use to sneak inside. Wanatai perked up immediately. They had long dreamed of overthrowing the elites in the tower, those who lived in luxury while everyone else rotted underground. Then, one of his men opened Hibiki's backpack and freaked out. It was packed full of explosives. That's when Kai finally remembered there'd been a theft at the weapons depot not long ago. Turns out, Hibiki wasn't bluffing. He had already rigged a car bomb. His plan? Blow a hole in the tower's perimeter and force a way inside to find his daughter. The explosion shredded the barricade and triggered a nearby zombie horde. Wanatai saw his moment and didn't hesitate. He rallied his gang and charged, planning to seize control of the tower. Inside, alarms blared. The tower's private militia locked down the breach and brought out the big guns, flamethrowers. Zombies burned, one after another, but the defenders made a fatal mistake. They dumped the scorched bodies into a deep pit, unaware that zombie blood had seeped into the drainage pipes straight down to the underground shelters. A single drop landed on a woman's face. She quickly turned into a zombie. Chaos erupted as more survivors were bitten, trapped with no escape. Panic set in, and up above, Wanatai and his men were completely unaware of what was unfolding below. He tore up a wooden panel and uncovered a hidden maintenance shaft just where Hibiki Mamiya had said it would be. If she wasn't lying, it could lead straight into the tower. But just as they began their infiltration, A patrol spotted them. Gunfire erupted. Wanatai shot one guard dead, but they were outnumbered and forced to retreat. They lay in wait at the top of the stairs, ambushing the guards and catching them completely off guard. During the scuffle, Yamato suddenly caught a whiff of something strangely familiar from one of the guards, a faint, recognizable scent. Together, the team managed to overpower the guards after an intense fight. Afterward, Yamato rummaged through a nearby trash bin and found it, the bottle of perfume he once gave to his girlfriend. Overwhelmed, tears filled his eyes, but the joy didn't last long. Hibiki Mamiya suddenly sensed something. He could feel something closing in on him. He realized the zombie horde had already flooded into the building. The group fought back with everything they had. But there were just too many of them. They were forced to retreat once again. Just as they reached an exit, they found themselves completely surrounded by tower guards. In a last-ditch effort, Kai slammed shut the reinforced glass doors, but they wouldn't hold for long. Hibiki Mamiya thought fast. He realized the window was their only way out. Without hesitation, he snatched Wanatai's pistol and shattered the first pane. Then he dove forward, shattering the remaining windows. The wind howled with hurricane force, nearly sucking them all out, but they held on, gripping heavy objects until the gale finally died down. After the chaos, the group pressed forward deeper into the tower. At last, they reached the laboratory. Yamato was overjoyed at the sight of the vaccine vials. At that moment, a cold, chilling voice rang out to alert them. The sudden voice startled everyone. It was then that they noticed the lab was filled with infected. Kai spotted a familiar face among them. It was his missing brother. Turns out, everyone here had been abducted and used as human test subjects in the vaccine trials. But the vaccine was still incomplete. They weren't cured. They had mutated, twisted into horrifying, grotesque creatures. Hibiki Mamiya stepped forward and asked if a man named Shinji Murata was here. One of the infected stirred his mind, briefly sparked with recognition. He was once the lead scientist of the vaccine project, and he was Shinji Murata. Kai spotted his long-lost brother among the test subjects and tried to bring him out, but his brother, half zombie and barely human, begged them to end his suffering. Kai couldn't bring himself to do it. In the end, it was Hibiki Mamiya who understood his pain and granted him peace. The group buried their emotions and pressed onward. Meanwhile, elsewhere in the tower, Shinji Murata was alerted that the zombie horde had reached the 30th floor. His solution? Abandon the lower-level civilians. But just as he tried to call a researcher back to the lab, a familiar voice cut through the radio static. It was Hibiki Mamiya. The truth came spilling out. Years ago, after the outbreak began, Mamiya's wife was infected but never turned. She gave birth to their daughter Mirai, who was born with a miraculous immunity to the virus. But soon after, her mother's condition worsened. In order to let her die as a human, Mamiya made the agonizing choice to end her life himself. News of Mirai's immunity spread. Dubbed the Chosen One, she was taken by tower authorities for research. And now, Mamiya had come to get her back. Upon hearing this, Shinji Murata made a bold promise. Whoever captures Hibiki Mamiya will receive the completed vaccine. He dispatched all tower security to hunt him down.
その男は人類の希望を奪おうとしている。間宮響を捕まえろ。殺しても構わない。その者には優先的に完成したワクチンを与える。人類の敵を殺せ！
The group sprinted through the halls as steel blast doors began to lower, but just as they neared the exit, Wanatai betrayed them, shooting Mamiya in the back, trapping both him and Yamato inside. Unbeknownst to all, Shinji Murata's promise was a complete fabrication. There was no finished vaccine. In a desperate attempt to speed up the research, Murata ordered massive blood extractions from Mirai, but nearby, Aoi, who had been caring for Mirai, overheard everything. Unable to stand by and watch the girl be sacrificed, Aoi took her and made a run for it. But just as they tried to escape, their path was blocked by the infected. Just in time, Yamato, tied to a rope, leapt from an upper level, smashed through a window mid-fall, and landed right in front of them. He quickly reached the control center and opened the emergency gates, rescuing both Aoi and Mirai from certain death. Afterward, Aoi hid Mirai inside a storage cabinet and stood alone to fight off the advancing zombies, but she lacked any combat experience and was quickly overpowered. At the last second, Yamato arrived and pulled her to safety. Meanwhile, Hibiki Mamiya looked at the girl and immediately sensed the truth. This was his daughter, but Mirai, having only spent half a day with him, didn't recognize the man before her. Terrified, she ran and hid in Aoi's arms. Just then, Wanatai's henchman returned, warning that a large squad of guards was on the way. Mamiya made a choice. He'd draw the soldiers away to buy time for Mirai's escape. Yamato, refusing to let him go alone, ran after him, but the moment they were gone, Wanatai's lackey betrayed them, pulling a gun on Aoi, planning to use Mirai as leverage to get the vaccine from the tower leaders. Meanwhile, Mamiya and Yamato were ambushed by Wanatai himself and forced to take cover in a nearby lab. Through the glass, they saw Aoi captured. When Mamiya learned that Mirai had already been taken back to the lab, he immediately set off to rescue her. Wanatai pursued him relentlessly. In the end, Mamiya managed to take him down, but just as he caught his breath, Yamato appeared and shot him. The guards had threatened to kill Aoi if Yamato didn't hand over Mamiya. With no other choice, Yamato gave in to the guards' demands. Meanwhile, Hibiki Mamiya continued to flee, using the zombies to block the bullets chasing him. By the time Yamato made it to the rooftop, Mamiya had vanished. At the same time, Wanatai's henchman dragged Mirai before the tower's leader, demanding he be given the vaccine as a reward. But the experimental dose failed. Within seconds, the man transformed into a grotesque monster. A single shot from the leader's gun ended his suffering. Moments later, Mamiya and Yamato reached the lab. They had planted explosives throughout the tower, ready to use them as leverage. Their demand was simple: give Mirai back. The leader, unfazed, calmly explained that Mirai was critical to humanity's future. He even offered Mamiya luxury and power within the tower if only he'd cooperate. But when faced with the choice between saving the world and saving his daughter, Hibiki didn't hesitate. He chose Mirai.
未来の父親だ！僕の研究は完璧だった。その子に抗体がなかっただけだ。
The leader was stunned. The girl he believed to be a divine savior had been a carefully fabricated myth all along. Gunshots rang out. Mamiya collapsed to the floor, bleeding out. Disillusioned, the leader gave up. He and his guards abandoned the lab, leaving Mamiya, Yamato, Aoi, and Mirai to die. But Shinji Murata wasn't dead. Wounded but conscious, he reached for a shard of glass, crawling toward Mirai with malice in his eyes. He blamed everything: his pain, his failures, on her. Just as he was about to strike, Hibiki Mamiya, presumed dead, stood up. The markings on his face revealed the truth. He had injected himself with the virus, sacrificing his humanity to gain its regenerative power. All to save his daughter. His wife had done the same, risking being consumed by the virus to give birth to Mirai. It had been faith and love that kept the infection at bay. With the last of his strength and sanity, Mamiya took down Shinji Murata for good. Then, trembling and fading fast, he turned to Yamato. Take her, get her out of here. And just after they escaped safely, the explosives they had planted went off with a thunderous boom. In the blink of an eye, 20 years had passed. A small squad appeared in the middle of a deserted wasteland. There, they rescued an old man on the verge of dying from thirst. Led by him, the team returned to the ruins of the former research facility. But when the old man removed his bandages, they were stunned to see the one inside. He was the very leader who had once escaped by helicopter. What he didn't expect was that the helicopter had been rigged with explosives, which left him buried alive in the wreckage for all these years. Mirai stepped forward, ready to kill the leader and avenge Hibiki Mamiya, but as she looked into his seemingly remorseful eyes, her resolve wavered. Unfortunately, that was exactly what the former leader had planned. Thankfully, Yamato reacted in time and shot him dead on the spot. Immediately afterward, they found the mutated Hibiki Mamiya in the ruins beneath the tower, his body impaled by a steel beam, unable to move, frozen in the same position for 20 years. And Mirai had come for one reason only: to finally give him peace.
ありがとう。